Yeah, automatic. Cool. Nobody's in here. Anybody want to sing for 4 hours?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't believe any of them will get done before 4 hours these days.
Oh, now what?
Yeah.
Before, yeah, hour and a half, maybe something. Been down. Shortest amount of time is 20 minutes.
Well, yeah, most of the stuff is you get the information, you ask for more information, or you move on.
Yeah, no, she got there at a park, so we line by line in it.
Yeah, it's awful.
Minutes. The last one.
Yeah, she said that she had your yeah, just forward it to Emily. Yeah. I'll be in the city, something
Information.
Well, I mean, I know
Oh, one of the commissioners wants to be fed during the meetings. Because there isn't enough time for 6 o'clock meeting dinner.
Where's that on last one?
That's on last month's meeting, or last meeting minutes.
Last one?
Item 15.
Huh?
Item 15, commissioner's comments.
Item 3? No.
No, 15. It's what page am I on? I'm on 10 of 13.
Oh, okay.
Right about the middle of the page, right under the R.
Oh.
cover it up. Okay. 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 Yeah.
Hey, I got time to eat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's called time management. Figure it out. Sometimes I haven't, so I've had to eat during a break.
Yeah.
I think we should have Oh, I'm not supposed to say that.
Hey there.
Stranger?
How's the hips doing?
Actually, it's getting better.
Yeah?
I know.
Yeah. This side's taking longer
Always
than I
preface
thought.
it with, I'm not HR manager.
Well, you still covered on the other side.
I know.
I was surprised how quickly.
Yeah, the other one.
Kim went dinner to eat 2 weeks ago.
Oh, she did?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago yesterday. And it was much better.
The knee is trying to get over there.
He went saw the doctor today. He said everything's looking
Where'd
good.
you go to?
Starts with a D. In the city.
I did Hazel.
Yeah, she did one in the city. We've had some other friends using Ferdy's, and yeah, it's coming along great. She's able to walk
Tell her I said
around.
hi.
I will.
I know, of course, all that trip.
Yes.
2 weeks is work. Why? It's been a month.
She's close.
Been here
I mean,
longer
she
than
can
that.
for short
Like, I've
time.
seen her the last month.
But like yesterday, she was a physical therapist and did 20 minutes on the bicycle, and she gets off of that, she's like, okay, I'm ready to go to the gym, we'll just sign
Okay.
up.
Somehow I can't open up.
20 minutes, no big deal. Last night, she their knee, her knee. So she's discovering that, you know,
Oh, okay.
anything for a short time is okay. But if she puts too much on it in one day,
Yeah.
by the nighttime it hurts.
It takes longer to figure out how to get online.
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
Although she's doing well, these the 2 weeks, she's getting around and,
Yeah.
Abby's good.
Yeah.
I haven't.
hopefully in another 4 weeks she'll get her into school and, or another 2 weeks to get her
I
into
was playing with
school.
my hips.
She's our new tech at
Then 4 weeks after that, she'll.
Oh, great.
She'll 100%.
Do you know where the drawers are?
Yes, I do.
Don't be leaving any checks in.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, she knows, because she had to clean up the mess. Oh, that's true. That's true.
Everything else.
Your new
Yeah.
cards with your new email.
I did have one time.
No.
You just bring back, yeah.
We're having dinner.
Well, since our meetings are 6 o'clock.
The one bag that.
She said, get pizza.
Yeah.
Yep. Gotten twenty.
Like,
Oh.
we're going to go to the gym too often.
How do you do that?
You two are like, did you coordinate?
Yes.
You two like, perfect. You were
I get the medicine and everything for you.
But it was a black
Now
night
when was
tonight.
supposed to, oh, that's not fun.
Open it up.
Well, I won't be doing this all the time.
This fish is back there. You can get it ready for it.
My, it's not. Just be like, I forgot something. Okay,
Hey.
They didn't, so we're
You zoom this thing.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission. If we wish to make it louder, we will bring up the volume. If we wish to make it softer, we will tune it to a whisper. We will control the horizontals. We will control the verticals. We can roll the image, make it flutter. We can change the focus to a soft blur, or sharpen it to crystal clarity. For the next hour, sit quietly and we will control all that you see and hear. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your television set. You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind to the outer limits.
Yeah. Yeah, put him up, put him up.
Put up there?
Perfect. Oh, I didn't need to be here. I was thinking, maybe he'll give me a nice picture. I don't know. That's what you did that. Do you appreciate it?
Huh? No, I never bothered you last. So I did absolutely good.
Oh, we're good. Hand rated?
Yeah, stuff that came down. We got to use it.
You got to in trouble. Yeah. First, with the computer, sold the house.
I'll get up on another location for
Huh? No, we don't need
Yeah, so, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I sent emails and then I made copies.
Yeah. Well, my people on the last day, they got cold. Good.
Yeah.
Oh, I know the truck gardens.
Post, P-O-S-T, P-O-S-T, the cereals you like the most. The cereals made by Post take you to the secret mountain retreat of Captain Video, Master of Space, Hero of Science, Captain of the Video Rangers. Operating from his secret mountain headquarters on the planet Earth, Captain Video rallies men of goodwill and leads them against the forces of evil everywhere. As he rockets from planet to planet, let us follow the champion of justice, truth, and freedom throughout the universe. Stand by for Captain Video and his Video Rangers.
Yeah. It took me a minute to figure out what to do. Then I realized it was a full year. And comparing, as soon as I started doing that, I was like, we're up.
And we got.
What are the plans? Yeah, so I thought it was already first order. I did know. You're gonna do it when they do it. That's just kind of what it is.
Yeah.
All right. For having done that.
Okay.
Because that's what I guess we're using for the next stuff. So as soon as we get it, more than yeah, we're just giving down. I think we're on very little.
Yeah.
Just know that when he's up there, it's clear you won't have very much leeway for taking a step to the left. Okay. I've got you off the screen as much as I can. Okay. I'll move down this way. That'll help you.
Yeah, it's not for one piece, yeah. It does, you know.
It's this red button on the side. We're golden.
There's an incentive. Where did we get? Gangways. Back east. That's good. We had a couple of hands, yeah. I think we had more words. Center, from the harbor, we went out. The army went out. The same time, they were all over the way down.
Good evening, Gene. All right, how are you?
Inside. Still.
I never seen someone.
All the way down. Well, that'd be great.
See, I've been using my own.
I did. I did. Check it out.
Tomorrow night?
That's one of these two. Sure, they come close
Yeah.
Because it's the same device.
Oh,
$8 $10 to watch it.
No problem.
Thank you, sir.
He's a nice car. Maria,
Oh,
I assume you put it together. I'm sorry. You did it?
yeah. They've been together like that for a bit. When they switched over from the, they used to do it the old-fashioned way.
so now they do it in fancy.
You ready? Okay, good evening everyone. Welcome to the February 19, 2014 regular meeting of the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Harbor Commissioners. Roll call please.
Commissioner Bennett, Commissioner Holsinger, Commissioner Caravano,
Here.
Commissioner Tucker,
Here.
President Bernardo.
Here, thank you. Public comments, we have one card here from Mr. Brian Rogers.
Yeah. Usually I come up and I talk about Robert's rules, which basically, I missed last meeting, so I don't know how that one went because I tried to watch it online and I couldn't hear anything. But the meeting before, which was in this location, I was rather disturbed by the president gets to a certain point and stops the meeting and says, we are so far off topic. At which point I kind of had some hope. But then followed it up with, but let me put in my thoughts on this. I mean, if you don't want to follow the rules, then change the bylaws so that you don't have the rules in there. If you just want it to be a free-for-all roundtable discussion, make it that. But if you're going to leave it in there that you're going to follow some kind of structure, follow that structure. That meeting, you had to rush at the end because more than 30 minutes was wasted on roundtable discussions of, my favorite was during a discussion of our lien and something else policy, got into a discussion of whether we have a newsletter. I mean, I don't care whether you discuss whether you have a newsletter, but put it on the agenda and do it properly. Don't just throw off the topics, because then you don't get done, business doesn't get completed, people don't have time to do their proper discussions. That's what the rules are about. They're not just about, sticking to a structure, it's about getting business done. So, I mean, it's having no impact. Coming up here and reading you the rules, you know what the rules are. You've read them yourselves, you're just not doing them. And I don't know how to convince you that if you'll follow the rules, you'll get the business done. And what you're doing now is wasting a lot of people's time. Even just wasting a half hour means you've got 15 people who you wasted a half hour of their life for a discussion on something that was irrelevant at the time. So, I don't know what else to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, no other public comments, staff recognition please.
I have two. I have brought our new employees in tonight, so I would like to introduce David Doyle. He's our accountant. He has taken Deborah Galarza's place, who was moved into Director of Finance. David comes to us with a bachelor's degree in accounting and an MBA in business management. So we'd like to welcome him. He's been here since September, but he's, we consider him a new employee. So we're very happy to have him. And we'd like to introduce Abigail Delmatita. She's our accounting technician at the Oyster Point Marina. And she comes to us with a double major in accounting and finance. And we'd like to welcome her to the Harbor District. And her start date was, I believe, February 1st. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, welcome aboard. And we are now at consent calendar. So moved. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'd like to take it off consent.
Okay. Okay, so let's take minutes of sorry, we'll take it up. So,
With the permission of my second, I will take my motion.
I'm sorry, say that again.
With the permission of my second, I will take my motion.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So let's take consent calendar item number 1, minutes of meeting February 6, 2014. Do I hear motion on the first meeting minutes of February 6th for discussion on this?
I have a couple of comments to make. I wanted to mention that the minutes are definitely a lot better than the January 15th minutes, so I just wanted to thank staff for that. There's more information here, which I appreciate. I'm still disappointed though that we don't have a little bit more information about the public's comments. We don't have any information other than their names, so it doesn't say whether they were in support of an agenda item or opposed to an agenda item. There's just no detail there. And then on, let's see, page 6, and this is February 5th, 2014, I noticed one thing that seemed off. It says here under, well, actually on the minutes, we normally do it this way. There's no, usually we give the agenda number. Let me see. Yeah, so in these minutes, there's no agenda number, so it's really hard to tell what you're looking at. So that's just a comment. Maybe we could fix that. And then on whatever agenda item this is, I can't tell because it doesn't say.
That's the urgency item.
For the, where, well, I'll tell you what it was.
The one that does not have the numbers for
It says here, Holsinger read from a memo he created and made a motion to direct the general manager to seek an attorney general opinion on whether or not any state law or laws would be violated for an elected official or government body of the elected official if they were to have an embedded link on the agency's website. That wasn't an emergency item.
Okay, that was for Commissioner.
Okay, so that's the item that I'm talking about, and it says here that the motion passed unanimously, and actually there were 2 opposing votes, and 3 supporting votes. So that's, yeah, just wanted to correct that. And that was my only comments on these minutes, but I have a few other comments on the January 15th, so should I wait for that?
Yes, I'd like to go February, change it.
Okay. Commissioner Tucker.
Page 7 of 13 of the February 5th minutes. Next, just above new business, motion by Tucker, blah, 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 grand jury trial. It shouldn't be trial because there was no trial, but include the words until the results of the grand jury report instead of trial are made public. And it's not just that it can be destroyed after they get it out, but it's got to be made public. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, do I hear a motion with those changes? Okay, hear a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Hear a motion in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. We are now at minutes for the meeting of January 15, 2014. Consent calendar 2. Comments?
I've been traveling and did not have a chance to talk with staff, nor did I hear from them until today regarding changes to the January 15th minutes. So they haven't been changed, although I thought I made some suggestions for changes at the last meeting. So since that didn't happen, this apparently is my opportunity to do that again. And
the changes that you discussed at the last meeting, we did review those with the tape, and we didn't notice that there was any change from what was already in the minutes. And then you said you were gonna get the rest of it to us, and we didn't get anything else. So.
okay, so on public comment on item 6, well, it's right after that, so let's see, yeah, item 6, where it says Holsinger asked to remove item 6 from the January 15, 2014 agenda and place it on the February 5th, 2014 agenda. It should be, he asked to have it placed on the consent agenda.
It didn't, the tape didn't say that.
It does say that. I've listened to it. So if you could just recheck that.
Okay.
He definitely said consent. He wanted to have it placed on the consent, and we voted to place it on the consent calendar. So I just wanted to get that corrected. And then on page 5 of 10, where this is the third paragraph from the bottom, where it says, Brennan asked when the district would make the lease analysis for fish fires available to the public. Grinnell stated he received information from council and needed to review it before responding to Brennan's concern. He stated he would review it within the next couple of days and she would get a response accordingly. I believe that it was said that there was no analysis for the fish fires because there was no analysis. There was no lease analysis for the fish fires provided. So I just want to check that part, and those are my only things.
Okay, commissioners, any other comments on minutes for meeting January 15th? Okay, so do I hear a motion with those corrections and edits?
I move to approve with the edits.
Thank you. Do I hear a second? Okay,
I'll second for purposes of discussion, but it's my intent to abstain if I was not here.
thank you. I hear a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions?
One abstention.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we are done with the consent calendar. Moving right along, we are at agenda setting, where harbor commissioners may make future agenda items. Commissioners?
I have a few things. When it's my turn.
It's your turn.
Okay. Just really following up. Bear with me here because I've been out of town, so I'm trying to get caught up. I know I'm not the only one that's been traveling lately. Okay, so I was confused about something. Last time I wanted to talk about AR reports, and President Bernardo made a motion to put AR reports on a future agenda, and correct me if I'm misremembering this, I'm just looking at the minutes now, and I know I voted in support of putting AR reports on a future agenda, and President Bernardo voted in favor of that, but there were 3 votes against putting AR reports on a future agenda, so that was Holsinger, Paramano, and Tucker. So I was confused about why we have AR reports on this agenda when we actually didn't vote to put it on the agenda. So I just wondered what happened there between our vote and our agenda.
Okay, that's a good question. I'd like to ask staff what is.
Point of order, Mr. President. My understanding of this item is setting agenda items. If you want to discuss this, I'd be happy to do it later.
Well, this was an agenda item that we tried to get on the agenda, but failed to get on the agenda for this meeting, but yet is on the agenda. So I think this is the right time to talk about it.
Okay.
Because it's agenda setting.
Well, since we're already talking about it, let's just finish this conversation about AR reports and agenda setting. So I'd like to ask staff what the disparity.
We listened to the tape. There was a vote on sending her, I believe, and bear with me because we'll listen to it again if we have to, but there was a vote saying, there were 2 votes. One was regarding AR redacted reports, I believe that was no. And then there was another vote for presenting alternatives to the board, and that was all yeses.
Okay, that helps.
Thank you.
Understand.
Okay, thank you. That's what
Like I said, we're confused as well. Folks.
to clarify policy.
Thank you for clarifying that. And then I know at the last meeting, there was a request from the commission for an agenda item on committees. And I noticed that didn't make it onto this agenda, and just wondered what the status is.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Yes.
Once again, this item is supposed to be just for setting agenda items. I would think that Commissioner Brennan's question could readily be answered later on in the agenda.
This is about an agenda item.
Okay,
Are you proposing a setting of an agenda item?
It was supposed to have already been decided, and it's not on the agenda, so this is the time for me to ask about it.
okay,
I defer to the president.
Okay, now I do think that this is appropriate because Commissioner Brennan is correct that it is about an agenda item and we are already talking about it, so let's just finish the conversation.
What's the question, Mr. President?
The question is about the,
Committees.
I'm sorry, it's about, it's basically, my understanding is that it's an informational report on committees and the status of them and what we're going to do going forward, because traditionally every year the new president sets the committees and ad hoc committees and such, so.
Okay. My understanding is that there was no vote taken by the board to put that on the agenda, so it's not on.
Okay.
Okay, well, President Bernardo, you asked to have that report at a meeting. Do you want to put it on a future agenda, since it was your idea?
Okay, well, here's the thing, I would just like it to be on an informational report, so I don't know if, I'm gonna look at my fellow commissioners, does this need to be on the agenda, because it will be an informational report, that's all I ask for.
Well, that would have to be on the agenda. We can't do a report without it being on the agenda.
Point of information, Mr. President, we certainly can. We've done it for years.
Okay,
At the
well-
request of the commission.
Okay, thank you, then let me go ahead and formalize this then, if I may interrupt you, I know you're in the middle of your train of thought here, I'm going to propose then that we agendize an update, an informational report on committees. Do I hear a
I'll
second?
second.
I hear a motion second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Okay, that will be placed on a future agenda. Commissioner, sorry, please
That's
continue.
done.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Point of order, Mr. President. Future agenda item means no certain date. And so, given the workload of staff, we cannot guarantee when you're going to get that.
Okay, and I understand because I know that there are a lot of other priorities. And since, the issue of committee meetings isn't something we've revisited in a while, I think it can continue to be on hold. Because we have more urgent items that we have to deal with from a business standpoint. So, commissioners, are there other agenda items that you're looking to? Okay, thank you, and I have none. Okay, thank you. Moving right along here. On new business, number 3, we have mid-year budget review for the period ending December 31st, 2013. Mr. Grinnell.
Yes. As is the commission's practice over many years, we have for you a mid-year budget review. As you can see, it summarizes revenues and expenditures through December 31st of 2013. It's pretty straightforward in summary on the first 2 pages, and you have details by department. And so in the interest of time, basically I'll assume you read it, and so I'll try to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Grinnell. Commissioner Tucker.
I have several.
Okay.
First of all, I'm very pleased to see that we're almost on schedule in the mid-year report. I'm very pleased with our balance of monies. You and I talked when I was in to do the treasurer's checking of the bills and claims the other day. And I mentioned to you, I think it's important that we now have you prioritize for us capital projects. And I see that Scott is not here this evening, and he would have it on top of his head, I'm pretty sure. But I know some of them are in progress and pretty much completed, but there's some that we know that we won't get to this year. And therefore, I think it needs a little clarification, and we back out some of that money that we allocated to capital projects. Because this looks like 4.9 in the hole, when in fact it's not. And I would ask you also, do we have anything further from the city of South San Francisco regarding $2 million?
Mr. President, if I may, through the chair, respond. First, yes, absolutely on capital projects. Mr. Grindy has already conferred at length with Finance Director Galarza, so it's in process. Frankly, it would have been part of this had he been here. What I will suggest to you is that at the next board meeting, we can bring an update for you on that matter. So let me just make a note to that effect.
My last comment would be that we could show a balance of between $10 and $11 million, while we have a debt of $7 million to the state. So we are in very, very good financial shape. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Commissioners?
I think that it would be helpful if we got a real report on this, because this is important, and if I have to read it, I will, but it seems like it should be coming from the general manager. And we've got, you know, people that are tuning into this on the live stream, and they're not looking at this, and so I think it's, you know, it's important enough that we need to have some more content during the meeting. So do you want me to read it, or should we get a report from the general manager?
Well, you know, I don't think it would be, you know, necessary to read the whole, you know.
Well, I could highlight some things.
Perhaps if you'd like to point out a few things, or if you have questions, this is really more for comments and questions and not so much reading the whole thing.
Well, it'd be nice if we got an actual informational report about this from our finance director. Do we still have, I'm confused.
I wish you would stop asking that. We do have a finance director. We have not been notified that there has been a leaving of any of our personnel.
Oh, I wasn't sure if these were new people that were.
I just mentioned that that's an accountant and the accounting technician. I'm sorry if you weren't here when they were introduced.
No, I was here when they were introduced, but I thought one of them was the new finance director.
I did not say that. I said accounting.
Okay, if I could just interrupt this discussion right now. Mr. Grinnell, can you please give sort of highlights of this report?
I'll be happy
Because I
to
think
do that.
there's a wanting of more, basically. So
Yes.
can you please just
Point
give
of
us
information.
highlights? Yes.
Is this report on the web?
Yes.
Well, it's on the web, Mr. President. It's been highlighted to all of us. We've all had times to read it, most of us. And it's on the back. I mean, I don't see the need to go through this.
Okay, then I'll ask questions if that's how we want to do it.
We have a time for 5 minutes, please.
Yeah. That was during Commissioner's statements, correct?
No, it's during any time a commissioner speaks for 5 minutes.
Commissioner Brennan, please continue your question. Sorry.
Okay, I have to set my timer, so just give me a minute to set my timer. I'll tell you when I'm ready. In 5 minutes. Okay, I'm starting now. All right, so it says here harbor operating revenues are projected to be slightly above the budget by approximately 4% or $145,000. Non-operating tax revenues are projected to be 5% above budget or approximately $200,000, which is in part due to payments from redevelopment agency dissolutions. However, interest will be $30,000 less than budgeted as interest rates continue to remain low. The 2013-14 budget estimated that the district would need to dip into reserves by $2.6 million, including carryovers from fiscal year 2013-14 budget adjustments that draw has increased to $4.9 million. This is primarily due to fiscal year 2012-2013 capital projects carried over, Dock 11 modifications, and the Dock Finger project. The district should focus on capital projects that are necessary for health and safety issues and discuss deferment of non-essential projects in order to preserve cash revenues. Pillar Point Harbor.
Point of information, Mr. President.
Oh, you're cutting into my
Cash
time.
reserves, you misspoke, Mr.
Thank you for that correction. I just.
I'm sorry, Mr. Grinnell, can we just have her finish so that she can complete her 5
Revenues
minutes?
and reserves, so it's kind of important to.
Yeah, in the interest of the public not getting accurate information.
Okay, thank you. And just for the public's, okay, thank you. And just for the public's benefit, I believe that Commissioner Brennan is reading right off of the staff report, so if there's any changes, it's all in the staff report. Sorry, Commissioner Brennan, please continue.
And so you might want to correct the staff report. So I'm going to restart the timer.
There isn't a change needed.
Here we go. Killer Point Harbor, for 6 months ending December 31st, 2013, operating revenues are $1.2 million or 59% of budget. A strong crab season generated 100% occupancy during the crab season months at the harbor. This explains the launch fees at 87% to budget and berth fees at 56%. It is expected that the operating revenues will continue to stay on track and meet or exceed revenues. Revenues from rent and concessions at $265,155 or 72% of budget as a result of percentage rents from lessees came in higher than budgeted. On an expense basis, salaries are on track. I'm going to skip ahead here. Capital projects are the most significant budgeted expenditure. The district is investing in maintaining and developing capital improvements, which are originally $1.5 million. An emergency repair for finger docks is $580,536 in carryovers from fiscal year 2012-2013. Projects bring the total capital projects to approximately $2.7 million for fiscal year 2013-2014. I'm going to skip Oyster Point administration. For the 6 month ending December 31st, 2013, property tax revenue receipts are $2,091,181 and 55% of budget, including redevelopment agency receipts. Tax revenues are approximately to be 4% over budget for the remainder of the year. In addition, interest income is below budget. On an expense basis, salaries are on track at 50% of budget, benefits are at 39% due to an employee not electing to enroll in district health coverage and opting for a payout instead. Non-operating expenses are at 19% because of depreciation is posted at year end. Commission. For the 6 months ending December 31st, 2013, some commission expenses are well over budget. For benefit expense, the budget must be augmented by $20,000 because at the time of the budget process, it was not known if a commissioner was going to elect to receive the health benefits. Legal services were budgeted at $10,000 and at 6 months expense is $19,149. A budget augmentation of $30,000 is needed for legal expenses through the year end. Outside contractual services is for security service, for meetings. This was not budgeted for the estimated, this was not budgeted and is estimated at $3,000 through year end, and a budget augmentation of $4,000 is needed to cover costs already incurred as well as future estimate costs. Conclusion, the district is on track to meet its budget. Fiscal year 2013-2014, the district expects to receive $2 million from the city of South San Francisco during the balance of this fiscal year as an expense reimbursement for building Dock 11 at Oyster Point Marina. The district will need to review its capital projects and defer those not necessary immediately to keep an acceptable level of reserve intact. This will enable the district to create a reserve for 2013 election costs, be able to respond effectively to emergencies, and continue to provide services to the general and voting public. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the mid-year budget review for the period ending December 31st, 2013.
Thank you. I hear a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I hear a second. Let's have a roll call since this is about budget and money.
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner Holsinger? Commissioner Caravano?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
President Bernardo?
Aye. All opposed? None. Motion carries. So budget review approved. We're at item 4, mid-year budget amendments.
Mr. President, members of the commission, based on Commissioner Brennan's reading of the actual increased request, I would move item number 4, mid-year budget amendments be approved.
I hear a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I hear a motion and a second. So let's have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner Holsinger? Commissioner Caravano?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
President Bernardo?
Aye. So motion carries. We are now at item 5, Marine Science Institute Earth Day on the Bay sponsorship. Mr. Grinnell.
Yes, last year, the Harbor Commission chose to support the Marine Science Institute's Earth Day on the Bay event. And so we've been approached again by MSI for a renewal of support. Last year, the district supported at the Bay Advocate level of $500. That's by way of information. You have from the Marine Science Institute the schedule of levels of sponsorship. And so I put this before you for your consideration. I would, on behalf of staff, recommend that we continue to support the Marine Science Institute. We have no particular recommendation on levels of support. We thought you might wish to consider that and discuss.
Thank you.
President, I'd like to make a motion that we approve sponsorship to the for the Marine Science Institute in the tune of $500 for this year's 21st Day.
And I'll second that, but I also want to have a couple questions.
Okay, I hear a motion and a second. This is the time for questions. Commissioner Brennan.
So I noticed here it says that with the $500 Bay Advocate level of support, we get the option to table. Did we do that last time at their environmental fair?
If I recall, and I have to confirm for you, I think we did, but I need to check on that. I think we would want to do that.
So that's something that I would like to encourage the district to consider.
Any other questions?
That's it.
Okay. Any other questions? I have one question myself. And this is related actually to sponsorship. I know that different agencies have different sponsorship policies. For example, where I work, we also have sponsorship policies. For example, we are not allowed to, as a public agency, sponsor religious or political events, for example, or partisan type of events, and only educational events, that type of thing. So does the district have a sponsorship policy?
No, we don't.
Okay, it's something that we might want to consider for future, just so that because the fear, I think, and I'm, by the way, I'm totally supportive of this because I believe this is within our mission as a harbor district to support the Marine Science Institute, but just again, to make sure that it fits within our mission, to make sure that we're not showing favoritism. Well, how come we're donating here and we're not donating here, that type of thing. So I think a sponsorship policy is something we should consider for future. I'm not saying we should just.
If I might comment, you may recall that staff is due to provide an informational report, not as an agenda item, but just to give you a report, although you may want to have it on the agenda in case there's some action you might want to take about it. The report would be how staff intends to update our policies. You remember there was some discussion about that. And that was an important point, and we will be giving you a report to that. This item we will make sure to include as part of that whole thing.
Thank you. Yeah, just a section on sponsorships, something else that. Yes, I totally support this. So can we have, since this is money, let's do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner Holsinger? Commissioner Caravano?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
President Bernardo?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, wow, we are zipping through here. Item number 6, purchase of 1 replacement forklift for Pillow Point Harbor.
Yes. We have a piece of equipment that, in fact, needs replacement. It's outlived its useful life. It is used all the time at Pillow Point by staff for our various needs. This is totally distinct from any forklifts that any of the fishing-related lessees may have. We have our own needs. And it's pretty straightforward. As you can see, we have checked into alternative vendors and estimates. So we have a recommendation for you to purchase a Toyota 8FGU 25 at 5,000 pound capacity new forklift, and that would be having wheels that will not cause any damage or impacts on the pier surface when it's used. So if you have any questions, we'll try to answer them, but basically it's straightforward item.
I move that we authorize the general manager to purchase one forklift for the purpose of replacement of the worn-out forklift at Pillar Point Harbor for a total amount of $27,124.25.
Thank you, Commissioner. Motion now in a second. So, because this involves money, let's do a roll call.
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner Holsinger? Commissioner Carabana? Commissioner Tucker? President Bernardo?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. We are now at item number 7, the quarterly investment balances as of December 31st, 2013.
Yes, Mr. President, you have the quarterly investment report before you. As is past practice, the Commission has tended to accept this report, and basically we do this throughout the year, as the name implies. So you have it before you. If there are questions, respond.
Move to accept the report.
Okay, thank you. I hear a motion in a second. Do I have questions on the investment balances report?
I have a couple.
Okay, Commissioner Brennan?
Could I get some explanation about the unfunded liabilities? I'd like to better understand that. So we have this money set aside for unfunded liabilities, but is that?
It's the longevity health care benefit that we have.
Right, but is that enough to cover all the unfunded liabilities?
I'd have to double check. Well, on this, I believe this is what it is currently. Because we have an end to our longevity health care benefit, correct? It's because it's half of however long the person has been in it. So we can always calculate that. So we have some employees that haven't reached that point yet. We have some employees who, if they have 20 years in, they have 10 years, so we can calculate that, and then every year we add to it what, what we think inflation will be, et cetera. But we're able to calculate that because unlike others who have a lifetime health care benefit, there's really not any way to calculate that. But with what we have, we can actually calculate it.
So I remember in the past when Genevieve was still with the district, that she showed, I think this was even before I was on the board, she showed some pie charts and graphs and stuff related to the unfunded liabilities. I'm wondering if we could get more in the future, not right now necessarily, but get more clarity so that I'd like to see the projected unfunded liability. I'd just like to know that we have enough reserve to cover what's projected.
We could probably add that to the budget, or when we talk about the budget and the budget workshop.
That sounds great. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. I have a question. So, okay, I know we're paying down our debt. What is our debt approximately now?
$7.1 million.
7.1. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? So I heard a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner Holsinger? Commissioner Carabana?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
President Bernardo?
Aye. Motion carries on the quarterly investment balances. So now we are at bills and claims in the amount of $159,199.17. Mr. Treasurer.
Mr. President, I mean, the Commission, I reviewed the bills and claims, will approval of the expense of $159,199.17.
I hear a motion and a second. Do I have any questions on this item?
I just wanted to say that I'm going to be voting no, because the bills and claims have not been made available for me to review, and I have discussed this at past meetings, so I'm not going to drag it out. So just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you. If there aren't any other questions, can I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Brennan?
No.
Commissioner Holsteiner? Commissioner Carabana?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
President Bernardo?
Aye, motion carries. That is taken claim. So we are now at item number 9 for continued business, and I have one comment card from Mr. Ullum. So why don't we have the report first, and then we'll have public comment, and then we'll have the commissioners. So, Mr. Brunel, on informational and possible action on accounts receivable records report.
Yes, as you know, this came out of a previous board discussion and decision. It's fairly straightforward. The district has been providing redacted accounts receivable reports consistent with Public Records Act provisions, and pursuant to discussion of the board previously, we have provided on page 2 of this memorandum 3 possible alternative courses of action that staff can pursue pursuant to commission direction. And again, to recap, because of previous discussions, staff requested direct guidance from the commission, because if it eventuates that the district is to provide either fully or partially unredacted reports, there could be legal implications. And so, given that, we felt that that was a decision that the board should take. And so, for the benefit of the public who may not see this report right now, I'll read those 3 alternatives quickly. One is to continue to provide redacted AR reports, accounts receivable reports, as previously. Second, provide accounts receivable reports that redact only tenants' names and birth numbers. That is, we would be providing tenant account numbers also. Or third, provide fully unredacted accounts receivable reports. So there are 3 alternatives before you for your consideration and possible action.
Thank you.
I have a comment, so it's my turn.
Okay. Let's do, before we get to commissioners, we have one public comment card from Mr. Ullum. So, Mr. Ullum?
No. Just like to remind the commissioners that Mr. Caravano, at a meeting about 2010, had in front of him an aged receivable report with unredacted customer IDs, and he in fact listed off one of those customer IDs, and to this day you can find that customer ID in your minutes. And as you know, there were no ramifications from that. In one of the things that he mentions is in the report that he does agree, those customer IDs are randomly generated numbers. Alphanumerics, maybe they're all digits, but it's referred to as an alphanumeric. It has no relation back to anybody's ID, any of their social security numbers. It means nothing. Knowing the zip code tells me more about your tenants than the customer ID does. So, and further, the legal ramifications, if you really are serious about that, should be considered, because I have been provided totally unredacted AR reports that were left in front of me, and they'll confirm this, that they gave them these reports. I didn't get a chance to look at them because there was I was threatened with being charged with harassment, so I got them left. But I did see them, so I suppose it's been a really huge security breach if you really believe I can do something with those customer IDs. Now here's the truth. If you read his explanation, Mr. Grinnell says that I could use those customer IDs if I were to gain unauthorized access to your database. Do I need to explain that if I had unauthorized access to your database, I would not need your customer IDs? I would have everything. So I don't know why Mr. Grinnell does not want to provide these numbers. All I want to do is just confirm things I've been told about the negative balances, and so I can see the numbers change in a predictable manner. See if there's nothing there, it'll take about 5 minutes to prove it. If there's something there, it'll take about 5 minutes to prove it. But for some reason, Mr. Grinnell does not want to share these things. So to be clear, we have not asked for unredacted reports. We have asked for the customer IDs to be unredacted. Option 2 is exactly what I've been asking for. Will allow me to confirm what I've been told by your staff, and then we can all move on. But we've been working on this now, what? This has come up 6 or 7 times. And it's just, there's just nothing I can do with this information, having a customer ID. I wish I knew how. I could sell that expertise, but I don't know how. I don't know how anybody could. Thanks.
Thank you.
Point of information.
Yes, Mr. Grinnell.
Mr. Lee brings up an interesting point. In reference to the account numbers, he says that they're randomly generated. That is true. The point is, once they're assigned, then they are attached to a particular tenant. And if indeed somehow unauthorized access to that account number happens, that could lead to the divulging of sensitive personal information. That's the issue.
I understand. Thank you. I get it.
I am. I really don't. Is it my turn?
Please go ahead.
That logic makes no sense to me whatsoever. I'd like to know from Jeannie, since you're our counsel, is there a problem with us having these randomly generated alphanumeric numbers available unredacted when all the sensitive information is going to be redacted? Is there some problem that I am just not understanding? Because what the logic that's being explained to me in this report, this memo, and what I'm hearing from the general manager right now verbally makes no sense. So can you clarify for me what the issue is?
I would like you to please clarify that, but I would like to say something in preface. Okay, I would like to say that in answering these questions, I caution staff. It's sort of like when I'm asked at the office, oh well, we just want to know where your security cameras are, or at the airport, tell us about your security systems. Let's just be careful that we don't kind of divulge how someone may gain access to the system. So I just want to say that. So I'm sorry, please finish.
Of course, I couldn't answer that question because I don't. Turning on my computer is a struggle for me. It's my understanding from what the general manager has indicated to you is that he has a concern that there is privacy of the tenants, and his concern is that right to privacy won't be fully protected if the account numbers are divulged. And so he's placed this request before you all to determine whether or not you would like to direct staff to disclose the reports with those account numbers on or off.
Okay, thank you. Can I piggyback on Commissioner Brennan's thing then? So are there legal exposures or risks to that then, from a district perspective?
The risk that the general manager has identified is if there is a way in which someone could gain access to personal information about your tenants, he's concerned about an invasion of their privacy.
In what way would that happen?
As indicated, I cannot answer that question now. Well, it's a technical question. I'm sorry, I really can't answer.
So
I
this
don't
would
know
be
how
okay, thank you. I appreciate you answering best you can. So then I guess this is a question for the general manager. How would one use this randomly generated alphanumeric number that comes from the Harbor District to gain access, because if they are able to do that, it seems like we have a security problem that's a lot bigger than just this random number. So can you please explain to me in detail how it is that someone would take this random number to gain access to our system?
I will decline to answer that based on President Bernardo's caution.
So, okay, is it my turn or you?
No.
Okay.
Just wanted to piggyback on your question.
Thank you. So it says here in this memo from the general manager that tenant account numbers are randomly generated. That's it, they're randomly generated.
Social security numbers are randomly generated.
This isn't a back and forth.
Make sure the commission.
Thank you.
Making sure everybody
Please
understands.
be polite and respect my time. Thank you.
Okay, go slow.
Thank you. So much good.
Okay, can we please not interrupt the commissioner? Sorry, Commissioner, please continue.
So, again, since I was interrupted, let me just make it clear. In the memo, it says tenant account numbers are randomly generated. So these are alphanumeric numbers that are created by a software program that we have that just assigns a number to an account. And if you don't have the account number and you're looking at the AR report, what you're seeing are various numbers here, but you have nothing to reference back to if you don't have the account number. So you can't, essentially what I'm saying is we are violating the Public Records Act by not providing the account numbers. The Public Records Act is very clear that you need to provide information that allows people to make use of public documents. And by blocking the account numbers, we are subverting the Public Records Act. And I'm very concerned about this, and it's serious. And it's been going on for too long, and there's no good excuse that has been provided today about why we shouldn't provide these account numbers. These are not the tenant's property. These are our account numbers that this district came up with randomly. So there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't allow those to be included in a PRA request. It makes no sense not to. If they were a social security number, that would be a completely different situation, but they're not. They are not social security numbers, they're random account numbers, and they're needed in a PRA request for somebody to cross-reference what's included in the AR report. So it's critical that it be included. The Public Records Act is clear on this issue, and I think we need to stop subverting the Public Records Act, and we need to stop the silliness, and we need to provide these account numbers immediately. And as far as the other statement here, it says authorized access to such account numbers could result in unauthorized individuals' access to tenants' full account. Okay, nobody has made any statements that qualify this. This is a bunch of smoke and mirrors, mumbo jumbo that makes no sense. It's been put out there now for months, and there's absolutely nothing to back it up. So I am strongly in favor of going with option 2, which is provide AR reports that redact only tenant names and birth numbers, and provide tenant account numbers, which again, just let me state, the tenant account numbers are simply account numbers that are randomly generated by the Harbor District and have absolutely no critical private personal information for the tenant. And there's no reason why we should have to notify the tenant either to tell them that we're going to release these account numbers, because they aren't their property. It's the Harbor District's account number. It's not something that the tenant has any ownership over. So that's silliness too. So I just, I hope that this is becoming clear to the board, because this is just lunacy. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it.
Any other questions?
I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Tucker.
Mr. Brunel, this exemplar that you've given us is well with the redacted names and account numbers. This is what you prefer, is that correct?
That's correct.
Let me ask you this, on these infamous account numbers, how many digits are there?
4.
What takes care of that? I was gonna suggest that there was 6 or more, that we might issue the last 3 numbers on the account. This way it would be too difficult, but there's only 4. Issuing the last 2 numbers doesn't accomplish anything. The last number obviously doesn't accomplish anything. I have nothing further.
I have a question. I don't have a problem with number 2, option number 2, or even number 3. But I really would like, I mean, this is all a partnership. That's how I look at it. And this is also a partnership with our tenants and our business partners. I would like to at least let them know. I would like to ask them. I'd like to poll them before we just go out and say, okay, by the way, we're going to just put these numbers out there, and and I think that's really important. I mean, before I myself make a policy decision on this, like I said, I have no problem with 2 or 3, but I think it's important in terms of due diligence to at least let tenants know that we're going to do this, and we're going to spring this on them before we do it. So that would be sort of my kind of caveat to all of this before we move in this direction.
Can I say one last thing when it's my turn?
Okay, one last thing, sorry, Commissioner.
I'd just like to say that we've been talking about this at public meetings now for months, and I haven't heard one single tenant get up and say that they don't want the alphanumeric number that was randomly generated by the Harbor District released to the public. I know there's one tenant, I think there's at least one tenant here tonight, and he didn't make a comment on this agenda item. So I really feel like, this is getting a bit silly. And I don't mean that as an insult. I just mean, do we really want to drag this out with more staff time and have a report and have a poll? I mean, come on, this is just so basic. There's absolutely no reason not to release this information. And surely, if somebody had a problem with it, we would have heard from them by now, because this has been in the newspaper for like a year, So it's just not a problem. So we need to stop making it into a problem. That has come from the general manager, but it's not based on any reality. So that's, I'd like to just move this on so that we can, deal with more important issues and let the public review the account numbers if they want to review the account number.
Okay, so I would ask a procedural question now. Thank you, are you finished?
And I want to make sure that everybody remembers that there is a Public Records Act that we need to observe, and that is very important. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a procedural question. This is an informational report. So are we planning to, at a future agenda, agendize this on the vote?
Actually, Mr. President, if I may, as a point of information, if you look at your agenda, proposed action is to be determined.
Okay.
And I did that deliberately because you had asked for alternatives that you might want to consider taking action on.
Mr. President, as the motion maker that has this item appear on the agenda, my intent was that we give staff direction and set policy. Okay. That's why this appears up here.
So can I make a motion? I move that we provide AR reports that redact only tenant names and birth numbers and provide the tenant account numbers, which is number 2.
I hear a motion to direct the general manager to move with number 2. Do I hear a second? Yeah, I'll second it. Okay.
On the question of the motion, Mr. President?
Yes.
I'm not going to be able to support this, and I think I understand the arguments on both sides, but I must candidly tell you, I don't know how one would track those numbers through ferreting out names, and that's what concerns me. I'm not literate enough to understand putting in 1627 and generating a name, which is my concern. So I will not be able to support this motion.
Okay.
Mr. Grinnell, when you're writing the staff report, the randomly generated numbers that are associated with the accounts, do they cover anybody and everybody that does business with the harbor district, transients, their commercial utility permits, birders, leases.
Yeah, anyone who's got a vessel in the harbor has an agreement with the district.
UCs.
Yeah,
UCs.
where those, I mean, again, the issue here, as I understand it, focus on burning accounts. But what Ms. Harris was pointing out is everyone who does business with the harbor has an account number.
And commercial utility permits.
If they're doing business.
Thank you.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Since this is about money issues and credit cards and things like that, let's do a roll call, please.
Wait. This is not about credit cards.
Right, this
This
the
is not
report,
about
but
money.
the report includes, well, this could potentially be about money.
How would it be about money?
Because aren't we talking about accounts?
We're not talking about credit card numbers. We're not talking about anything that costs anything. There's no money changing hands and us making the account numbers public.
Okay.
There's no money involved with that. There's no cost.
Also call for roll call.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner Holsinger? Commissioner Peravano? Commissioner Tucker?
No.
President Bernardo?
Aye.
Mr. President, if I may, I'd like to attempt a motion, although I probably can guess.
So the motion fails. I'm sorry.
I would move to approve option number 1 as outlined by staff.
Okay, I hear a motion on option number 1. Do I hear a second?
I will second.
I hear a motion and a second on option number 1, which is to continue to provide redacted AR reports as previous.
Why
I
do
hear
we
a
need to
motion and a
vote on
second.
this? We're already doing this. We don't need to vote on this. This is a ridiculous vote. We're already doing
I'm
this.
not surprised you're saying that. It's a separate motion altogether.
Well, it's a pointless motion.
In your opinion, it may be. However, I think I have the right to make a motion, and my second is.
Well, if you want to waste our time, go ahead.
Okay, so I hear a motion and a second. I'm sorry. I hear a motion and a second. Let's just do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Brennan?
I'm abstaining.
Commissioner Holsinger? Commissioner Peravano? Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
President Bernardo?
No.
So that's my understanding.
Motion carries so that we will direct.
Can I say the motion carries?
Yeah, it's two, you have 2 ayes, 1 no, 1 abstention.
That's correct. Thank you.
That's right, the motion carries. So we are directing the general manager to continue to provide redacted AR reports as previous. So moving right along, we are now at item number 10, informational report, providing free wireless communications to the district harbor and marina facilities. Ms. Harris, I believe this is your report.
Yeah, I'd just like to make one little correction. Thank you to the audience for that note. On the second paragraph, it says approved installation of wireless for Pillar Point Harbor. It should say $100 per whack for installation.
I'm sorry, can you please repeat that?
On the second little bullet point, it says $10 per whack.
Ah,
It should be
it should be
100.
100.
Yeah. My bad.
Okay. Thank you for
So
that.
anyway, this is the recommendations that I have here are for the open mesh network. I thought that was the most cost-effective and best use.
I'm sorry, Ms. Harris, I'm a little confused. So on the recommendations, are these 4 different recommendations, or are these packaged the same?
These
I'm
are
sorry.
packaged the same.
It's
So
all
we
the
would be
same.
using open mesh. So for each of the accounts, we would have to have a certain, for Oyster Point, we have to have a certain amount of wax. I'm gonna say up to 16 because we still work that out. And for Pillar Point, that's the cost for up to 16. For each location, we'd have to get a business class account for Comcast for that hookup. And then we would also have to create policies and procedures to make sure that the harbor district is protected.
Thank you for the report. Let's see here.
So the total, I think, is on the back. The
Yeah, it's
president
gonna have
has
to be.
all on the back, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Estimated costs are providing free wireless at district harbors and set forth in staff recommendations. Above total $7,150 plus $794 per month for plus maintenance.
Okay, so that's nearly $8,000 a month, correct? Approximately.
Well, no, that $7,150 is gonna be just the flat rate to get them up.
Okay, and then
The $794 is
month.
per month, and then whatever maintenance. I don't think there'd be a lot, but there could be some maintenance, so I don't say there's gonna be any.
Mr. President, I move the rule.
Okay, thank you. I hear a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I hear a second. Are there any questions on this item?
I have a question. $794 per month, is that per facility or for both?
Both facilities together, yeah. It's gonna be about $397 per location.
Okay, any other questions? I have none. So I hear a motion and a second, and since this does involve money, let's do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Bennett?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson? Commissioner Garvelia? Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
President Bernardo?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Commissioners. Moving right along, item number 11, informational report on health benefits. Ms. Harris, I believe this is your report.
Yes, it is, and it's not ready yet. We just received some preliminary information from the attorney today, so we haven't been able to do the report, and I'm still waiting on one more additional follow-up. So hopefully I can have that to you at the next meeting.
I understand that,
It's a little complicated with the new Affordable Care Act.
I totally get it. Other public agencies are struggling with health care benefits, and I'm sure that there's a lot of complexities involved and legal issues involved, so I get it. Thank you. Item 12, we do have a public comment card, so let's do the report first, then let's do public comment, and then the commissioners. So item 12 is informational report on Public Records Act information requests. And this is from Mr. Brunel and Ms. Harris.
Yes. Basically, what this does is lay out our procedure for processing such requests. And it's fairly straightforward. Again, I think in the interest of moving things along, since it is pretty straightforward, we will respond to any questions you might have about it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brunel. Let's go to public comment. We have one, Mr. Ullum, on item 12.
Obviously, I don't think transparency is high on the list of certain people in this room. Mr. Paravano, I noticed that you quoted as saying that you had questions as to how effective my PRA request have been. But I can tell you that your general manager told you that it was going to cost you $50,000 or $60,000 to move the office. When I asked him to supply PRA requests, we found out it was only about $2,000, maybe $5,000 if you stretch a few things. So we went from an assertion of 50 or something like that down to only 5. That was found out by a PRA request. None of you asked that question. None of you followed up on it. I found out that your accounts receivable reports, or your age receivables are constantly getting higher and higher. They're up 1,400% since 2010. I mean, it's 2009. Now, of course, Mr. Brunel has an explanation for that. You changed your accounting procedures. I guess that explains it. There's been several other PR requests that have found things, like, for example, we found out that even though Mr. Tucker here thinks that 14 credit cards might be a bit excessive in such a small district, due to my PRA request, we now have facts that you've got 27 credit cards. And so, again, something that you guys didn't ask. And so I've asked several times to have quantified the amount of money that was failed to be collected via your auto debit system and the ramifications of it, the scope of it, how many people didn't get charged, how many people's accounts got credited and you had to go back for. We know that one gentleman is very upset. And it is the reason, by the way, Mr. Parvano, that law enforcement has been requested to be here. It has nothing to do with the decorum of anybody, other than one tenant that was irritated because he got screwed with. And I happen to agree with you guys. Tenant in question had to pay the money, but the fact is, you guys, for some reason, for 6 months, you didn't auto debit him. Who else didn't get auto debit? You know, what was the scope of it? Now, I've asked that for our PR request because none of you have asked that. I've brought it up multiple times. None of you have asked anything about the debit card problem, or the auto debit thing. But they won't provide anything. The answer I got was, we don't know. Ms. Harris told me that. We don't know what the scope of the problem is. We don't know how much we've collected. We don't know how much. Well, anyways, one more thing that I can understand Mr. Parvano's, what's the right word, hostility toward PRA requests. I believe it was a PRA request that exposed your attempt to get taxpayers to pay for a brand new motor for your boat based on the fact that you are a commercial fisherman. And my understanding is, even though you claim that out of an abundance of caution, or you cared about the way that this reflected on this council, you withdrew your application, filed a PRA request with the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. It does not seem to be the case. Thank you, Mr.
Okay, so now we are at commissioners' questions and comments on this report. Commissioners,
It's my turn.
it's your turn.
Okay, so right now I'm doing a little experiment here by filling out this PRA request form that was provided in the board packet. And while doing that, just in case anybody's interested, what I'm requesting is that the district please provide the AR reports with tenant names and birth numbers redacted, but I would like the tenant account numbers unredacted. There are 4 check boxes below the subject, and it doesn't appear that any of these check boxes give you the option to get the information provided as a PDF file. And I think that this form is outdated, so we need to revise it because the Public Records Act specifically states that that the public should be able to get electronic documents. Thank you. Okay, so that was the first thing I wanted to mention. Moving on. So I see here that there is a list of 2014 PRA requests, which is interesting. I noticed that most of the requests are coming from the Bay Area News Group, so that's the San Jose Mercury News, and also from the Half Moon Bay Review. And this is just for 2014. And then there's a couple from a member of the public. What's not included here, which is interesting to me, is the PRA request that I was emailed today.
I just got that yesterday, so it wouldn't be on here.
Okay, and so who was that from? Which news group?
It wasn't from a news group.
Oh, well, who was it from?
Well, I have it back in the office. I didn't know that you needed to know who it was from. I didn't let anybody know who it was from.
Well, you have that all, you have.
Right, and when, I haven't put it on here yet.
Okay, so.
Because I just got it yesterday.
And you don't remember who you got it
No,
from?
off the top of my head, no.
Okay.
So I don't memorize, I just gotta get the work done.
Okay, so there was a mysterious PRA request.
It's not mysterious.
We don't know who it came from. Staff does not know who the PRA request came from. I find that interesting. And in the excuse me, it's my turn.
It's irritating to be told that one is lying. It's so irritating. I'm not a liar.
Understood, Ms. Harris. Let's just have
I just don't remember the name off the top of my head.
I did not call you a liar.
Sounds
I
like
hope we're not going to have that discussion again.
Understood. Can we please just, Commissioner Bennett, please finish your comments and
Thank you.
we'll just move this along.
So, the PRA request that came in today was sent to me specifically. I don't know if any other board members got one.
Everybody did.
And it has a list of names. I'd like to point out that this is totally inappropriate, and staff should know that it is not allowable to request emails that have nothing to do with the Harbor District, which is what's happening here. This request says, the San Mateo County Harbor District has received a public records request for the following information. Emails to or from the following addresses from or to you, and it lists my email address, It also lists my Twitter account, not sure what that has to do with anything, and it lists my website. Then it lists a whole bunch of people, and there's some very impressive people. I don't think President Obama's on this list, but a lot of other people are. And I didn't see Governor Jerry Brown, but there are some pretty interesting people listed here that do not work at the Harbor District, and as far as I know, have nothing to do with the Harbor District. There's some names on here that I've never even seen before. But we cannot provide personal emails. Well, it doesn't say that.
If I can, I'm sorry, can we rein this back to the
okay,
original topic
yes.
and not talk about specific or new items?
Okay, I think at the bottom of the thing, I said if you have any questions to call me.
Okay.
So my point is, this is a totally inappropriate request. There are some people on here that do work for the district, and that's appropriate. But to list things like the Half Moon Bay Review or random people, totally inappropriate. So my point is that clearly the staff doesn't understand the Public Records Act, and I think we need to get back to basics here. And I think we need to do some education about how to respond to PRA requests, because something is definitely not working. All right, let me keep, I'm almost done here. Oh, that's it. I'll look up.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? I have some questions. On this informational report. Mr. Carvano, do you have any questions?
One, Mr. This would be the only way that one could.
No, it's not. I mean, you can just send a letter. You don't have to fill out the form. The form's available online. If someone just makes a phone call or someone just sends a letter, that's good enough.
Can a public agency request that a form be used?
You can request it. I'm not real crazy about that because I think it kind of limits what the public does.
If I may point of information, the PRA explicitly says, as Ms. Harris has indicated, that one can make a request to any number of a variety of approaches. We know other agencies do use routinely forms, but again, it's an option. If somebody did choose to send in a fax or make a phone call, that's perfectly appropriate under PRA.
Okay, thank you. Quick questions. And I know because the public agency where I work in my day job does it also online, so I know that we have an online way of doing it too. So I have a question, sort of more for the old school style. What if someone wanted to have their information mailed, snail mailed? Do we incur those costs, or do we pass on those costs for mail?
Pass them on.
Okay. Because
You would pass the cost of the copying, and then if
the postage. What about
if it's like this big, then we would pass that cost.
I would recommend that when you update your public records request form, if you could please include like a disclaimer or something that says, mailing costs, you will pay for mailing costs.
That reminds me about costs. The Public Records Act specifically states that we can only charge for hard costs. We can't charge for staff time if it's a correct specific request. And right now we're charging 25 cents per page, which I think is high. Most agencies only charge 10 cents per page, and if we're charging more than Kinko's charges, I think there's a problem with our fee, and I think we need to reduce it down to 10 cents per page. So that would be my recommendation.
Point of information, Mr. President, if I may, on two accounts. First of all, on the fee, that is what is in the Harbor District's current rates and fees schedule. If you wish to modify that, you'll have an opportunity during the budget process. And as far as the statement that We can't charge for labor costs. That is not true in one instance. If the agency receiving a PRA request needs to create a new record that does not exist from raw data, then staff costs can be charged.
I would agree with that.
Thank you. Any other questions on this? I see a typo, by the way, just for the, on that page of item 12, third paragraph at the bottom where you said an additional 14 days to identify documents.
That reminds me, the wording on the memo makes it sound as if we don't need to provide the request in 10 days. And the intent of the Public Records Act is that the information be provided within 10 days, not just dawdling around and then sending a letter saying.
That's not true.
That's not correct.
No, it does suggest that you provide the information in 10 days. If you can't provide it in 10 days, then you send a letter stating that additional time is needed and that the information will be provided on such and such date. But the intent is that if it's possible to provide it within the 10 days, do so. Don't wait 10 days and then start looking for the information. If you can get it done in 10 days, do it. But if you can't get it done in 10 days, send a letter and get the additional 14 days. So just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Any other questions on this informational report? Okay, we're moving right along. Thank you. We are now at item 13, and there's a comment card. Now here's the thing, because of, what I'm going to do is, let's first have the public comment on it, and then we'll get to it. So let's have public comment. Mr. Allen.
Well, it's too bad Mr. Holsinger isn't here. I'd like to point it out that I, myself, do look for sin and wrongdoing, but I do it on my own budget, and I don't hire staff or attorneys or waste taxpayer dollars to go on a vendetta against the commissioner. Not saying I don't go on vendettas, I just use my own effort. So, Mr. Parvano, Mr. Tucker, I guess I have to talk to you. Apparently, you don't look, nor does Mr. Holsinger, at what they're talking about. You see, I went and looked at Miss Brennan's bio on the district site, the one that's got Mr. Holsinger really, really upset. And it lists her LinkedIn account and her Twitter feed. And of course the email that you all decided to give, out of goodness of your hearts, to Ms. Brennan so she could talk to her constituents using an official address. Now the funny part about this is, you've asked Mr. Grinnell, who's going to tell you that he can't do it in the first place, but you asked Mr. Grinnell to contact Kamala Harris, the Attorney General. There's a big problem. Kamala Harris links her Twitter feed right on the front page. And if you go to her Twitter feed, you will see the exact same kind of content that is on Ms. Brennan's Twitter feed. Now, Mr. Holsinger asserted that Ms. Brennan was the only politician in all of California that was doing this. That, of course, is misinformation, actually disinformation, because I had already told you all that several county supervisors are doing the exact same thing. So I'm wondering, do you just vote Mr. Parvano without knowing what the heck you're voting on? Can you explain to these people why it is you supported that? Mr. Tucker, would you like to explain why you felt this investigation needed the attention of Mr. Grinnell to harass Ms. Kamala Harris? And since you now know that Ms. Harris is as big a criminal or whatever it is you think you have discovered about Ms. Brennan's activities, what's next? Eric Holder? Are you going to get a special prosecutor? You're going to get somebody to come out of retirement like Kenneth Starr or Archibald Cox? Is he alive? But, you know, it just seems really silly to me that you would make such blatant attempts to find something, anything, about Ms. Brendan's activities that are related to her communicating with her constituents. Now, Mr. Holsinger doesn't know what a constituent is. He's never been elected. But I would like to hear what you guys think about this and what you're going to do next. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, for item 13, this is the informational report regarding obtaining an Attorney General's opinion. Now, since the commissioner who introduced this item, Commissioner Holsinger, is not here tonight, I would like to move this to the next meeting agenda. Sure. Okay. So we're going to move that, and we are now at item number 14, informational report on conflict of interest. Mr. Grinnell, this is your report.
Yes. Yes. In fact, I felt it would be most useful to the Commission, having conferred with Council on this, and so in fact, Ms. Savory has provided the informational report on conflict of interest, and basically goes through, as it says, the basics of what constitutes a conflict of interest. It is a full informational report. So I will defer to council to respond to questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. And we have no public comment cards on this, so commissioners, any questions on this report? And it looks very thorough. I see a lot of points here. So, any questions?
The public asked for this, and I think since we have the person here who wrote the report, we should hear the report.
Okay. Ms. Savory, would you like to say anything about the report, or emphasize or highlight any pieces of it, or bring anything to our attention that you think we should be aware of? I mean, it's pretty much all here, so I don't know which.
Well, I'm happy to answer any questions, but what the report actually does for the benefit of the public is runs through the conflict of interest laws in the state of California. And the report begins on page 2 with the discussion of part of the government code, which is called the Political Reform Act. And this is what the public probably is most familiar with. And this is where an elected official may have a conflict of interest that's created by some economic interest. And as you'll see on pages 2 through 3 of the report, there are 12 ways in which a public official may have a conflict of interest, which he or she should be careful to recognize. And the FPPC is the state agency that governs and regulates the Political Reform Act and implements investigations if there is any concern about a conflict of interest. They also will provide advice to your council if requested on potential conflict of interest situations. The second part of the report deals with the common law conflict of interest. And this is a body of law that's developed over a number of years, again, requiring elected or appointed public officials to recuse themselves from discussions in which they may have, for lack of a better word, they may be wearing two hats. You have divided loyalties. When that occurs, you must recognize that conflict of interest as well. The final part of the report is pages 4 through 5, and this deals with Government Code Section 1090, which says that a public official cannot have an interest in a contract that his or her agency is making. So that is really the main areas of the report. I've also attached for you an informational piece which was put together by Institute for Local Governments. It's called Ethics, Law Principles for Public Servants. And this is, I think, a really good guide for any public official to have and keep with them. It gives you a nice checklist to look at. And the advice I always give to my clients is if you believe you may have a conflict of interest, it's better to ask that question as soon as you think you have that issue, because these are sometimes not easy analyses to perform, and as I said earlier, FPPC can assist in the analysis of any of those questions if you have a concern. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And before I get to any questions that anyone might have, we are, as elected officials, and also those who are not elected officials but may serve on boards and commissions, are required to go through ethics training on a regular basis, which is AB 1234. And so just wanted to put that out there just for the members of the public who aren't aware. Elected officials are required to do this, and this is a regular thing that you have to basically take the class on a regular basis. It's something that you will do at the duration of your elected life, basically. And that we all go through as commissioners. We are required to go through ethics training. So any other questions on this item? Thank you for this report.
I have some.
Okay. Commissioner Brennan.
Thank you. So I know that in the past, it's come up at board meetings before that there has been some attorney fee time charged to the district related to advice from Gene Savory's firm to one of the harbor commissioners regarding his situation with recusals. And my understanding was that the advice that was being given was based on the notion that that commissioner was a commercial fisherman, and when I talked to our attorney, she was surprised to learn that in actuality or in reality, he isn't an active commercial fisherman. So there seemed to be a disconnect going on between the advice and the type of work the commissioner was engaged in. And so I'm wondering how accurate the advice might have been, given that perhaps our council didn't have all the facts and information to make recommendations on.
Can I respond to that? I've not given advice. I might as well be very direct. I believe she's talking about Commissioner Caravano, and my understanding is this is a conflict that's been recognized for a number of years before I became your attorney. I've not provided any advice. That's a decision.
Sorry, please finish, and then I have a follow-up.
That's a decision he made long ago, and I'll let him speak to that. I don't have any information on that. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I have kind of a piggyback question. Since we're talking about this particular issue, there's something I'm curious about that perhaps you could kind of educate me on. Conflicts of interest, they can be direct or indirect. I mean, right? Like, for example, if I had some financial benefit or gain that I got from, let's say, Oyster Point, okay, regardless of whether I'm a ferry operator or a member of the, I don't know, some direct relation, I mean, theoretically, there are many ways that I could potentially be in conflict. I wouldn't have to just be a ferry operator, let's say, at Oyster Point. That's maybe a bad analogy or example, a poor one, but I want to get to the point of the direct and indirect piece, because there are gray areas there where a person could potentially be in conflict, and it may not appear that way to the public. Is that correct?
Yes, and there's more than one way you look at a conflict. There's the FPPC regulations. Those are very clear. But as I indicated in my report, there's also the common law conflict of interest, which is where the report lays it out. You have to ask the question, can I be fair and unbiased in my decision-making on this particular subject? Or do I have a vested interest? Do I have some, am I standing in a position that's different from any other member of the public? That's a common law conflict of interest. And there are some times when people will recognize that as a conflict for themselves as well.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry. Commissioner
Sure. So just so I understand, Jean, did I just hear you say that you have never given Commissioner Pietro Caravano advice about his potential conflict of interest?
I have never been asked to give advice on his potential conflict of interest, correct.
But have you given him advice?
No, I have not.
Because I know at a meeting that was videotaped, you did mention that you were billing the district for a call regarding that very issue.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I indicated to you that on a yearly basis, he has recused himself for a number of years when it comes to the setting of fees. And I, on one occasion, called him and reminded him that it was my understanding that each year he recused on that item. He said, yes, I do. And that was the extent of any conversation I've ever had with him regarding any potential conflict of interest.
So you were just calling to remind him to recuse himself?
Yes, and that's what I told you when we talked about this some months ago.
Okay, so that sounds like advice to me, which is in contradiction to what you just said.
Well, then we may disagree on the word advice. I've indicated to you the full extent of my conversation with him.
Okay, all right, well, thanks for trying to clarify that. So I was, I've had a number of people, public members, ask me to contact the FPPC to try to find out if, and I guess they've asked the commissioner that is making the recusals to do this, and I don't know if he has or not, but I was asked to deal with it, and so the thing that the public wanted to find out was, does the FPPC recommend that that commissioner recuse himself? And so I did call the FPPC. I don't know if you've called President Bernardo, but
I'm sorry, call the FPPC why?
I don't know if the public has asked you the same questions.
No.
Okay. So I called, and I had a very easy time of it. There was a nice lady that answered the phone, and I asked the question. I gave her the scenario, which is we have a 5-member board. We've got one commissioner who frequently recuses himself from voting on issues related to commercial fishing. And there's been a perception that he's a commercial fisherman, but in reality, he's not an active commercial fisherman any longer. Maybe he once was, I don't know. And does he need to recuse himself on issues related to commercial fishing if his job requires that he purchase fish at Pillar Point Harbor? Not sell it, but purchase it. And she said, no, he does not need to recuse himself if he's simply purchasing fish. She was very, very clear on that subject. So I thought, well, who knows, maybe she's wrong. So I thought, maybe I'll call back. And so I did. I called back and I talked to another person, and I heard the same thing, that if you're just purchasing, like I go to Pillar Point Harbor, I buy fish, I'm not going to recuse myself. I don't need to. She said I don't need to. So it was clear as day from what the FPPC told me that you do not need to recuse yourself if you're just simply purchasing fish. A lot of people purchase fish. Probably all of us sitting at this table have purchased fish at Pillar Point Harbor. I know I do it all the time, and I don't need to recuse myself. So that's a relief. So given that, I said, well, how can you try to get someone to vote on things if they're voting because they're recusing themselves and they don't really need to recuse themselves? So I asked her that question. What do you do? Like, can you as FPPC tell that elected official that they have to vote? And she said, no, you have to wait till the next election and let the voters deal with it. So that was her analysis on the solution.
Question. If my colleague is please.
Thank you. Are you finished?
I'm done.
Thank you.
Question.
Commissioner Tucker.
Is it not so, counsel, that the bottom line is up to the individual, be it he or she, to make their own determination whether he or she feels they have a conflict, and that's the governing body? Yes, I think I have a conflict, whether you think I have a conflict or not. If I think I have a conflict, I err on the side of caution. Is that not always the telltale sign?
That's correct, and there's more than one level of analysis. I mean, Commissioner Brennan's just talked about the FPPC analysis, but as I indicated, there's a common law conflict of interest and an ethical issue involved when someone decides whether or not they believe they can be, they should be involved in considering an item.
How is the common law different from the FPPC's rules?
If you look in the memo, under the FDPC rules, there are 12 particular questions that you would ask, 12 ways in which a conflict could arise. Those are found in the rules and regulations.
Is this page 3?
That's page 2 and 3.
Okay.
The common law conflict of interest is talked about on page 4, and the common law conflict of interest is a broader a question. It doesn't relate to any particular dollar amount. So if you look at under common law conflict of interest, the second paragraph, it says courts have concluded that a common law conflict of interest can exist where an elected or appointed official is one, interested in the outcome, i.e. stands to gain or lose from a decision, or is biased about a particular party, or pre-committed to a specific understanding based on knowledge of facts learned in advance of a public meeting. So that's a very different sort of analysis that someone would go through, as opposed to FBPC, where you ask, okay, do I have a particular source of income of $500 or more? Do I have property within 500 feet? It's a very different kind of analysis.
This doesn't seem to apply to the situation at all. I don't see anything in this common law conflict of interest that's applicable to the specific situation that we're discussing.
Well, I can't answer that question because I'm not Commissioner Paravano. I'm not in his shoes, and I don't know what's in his mind. Those are questions that he has to answer.
Well, is that something that a Form 700 would help clarify?
No, because the Form 700 deals with the Political Reform Act, which is very different than common law conflict of interest.
Okay, so here's a question, and this is my last question. Since I buy fish at Pillar Point Harbor, I live 5 minutes away, do I need to recuse myself?
On that basis alone? I don't believe so, and I think you've just told us that the FPP has told you twice that you would not have to.
They have, but would the common law conflict of interest mean that I have to recuse myself?
I would have to ask you a number of other questions.
Such as?
Well, are you somehow interested otherwise in that decision that would be made depending on what's in front of you? I mean, I don't know what the question would be that the commission would be considering. Second, are you advised about any particular party that would be involved in that decision? I mean,
okay, I'm sorry, we're dealing with a lot of hypotheticals here, and I think we've gone way off kind of the deep end here in terms of the discussion. So if there aren't any more specifics on the report, I'd like to move to the next agenda item. And I want to thank staff and I want to thank Jean for the report. It's always a good reminder, especially, you know, even after taking required AB 1234, it's always a good refresher, good reminder of just you know, good ethics. We are now at staff reports, item 15, 16, 17. We have a general manager's, director of finance, and HR manager report. Mr. Grinnell, do you want to
just one brief comment. As you may have noticed, the format of the report has changed for the past couple of meetings. I was responding to a comment from the public about making it more informative and clearer, and so I've attempted to do that. So that's what you now have. It still includes what I was originally asked by the board to provide you with. Beyond that, I'll take any questions.
Questions, commissioners?
I have a couple questions.
Okay, Commissioner Redden.
And I just wanted to thank you for reformatting it because I do find it easier to read now, so I think it's an improvement. Thank you. So we have here, let's see, West Trail, Pillar Point Harbor Marsh to Maverick's Beach, staff met with Coastal Commission staff, permit process underway. I think we heard about that at a previous meeting, but I'm wondering, what is it that the Coastal Commission is reviewing exactly for permitting? Or like, could you be more specific about what it is that you're waiting to hear back from the Coastal Commission on?
Certainly, and I'm glad you asked because as both of us know, in fact all of us here know, this project is of real public interest. We have approached the Coastal Commission for two things. One, approval through either an emergency permit or an expedited permit to do immediate repairs in a particular segment of the trail alignment that is more seriously eroded than elsewhere. That way we can continue to keep the trail open. Concurrently with that process, which in fact the Coastal Commission is now reviewing, given the information we provided them, we would be also ending up with a full permit for the entire project. And the entire project will include repairs to eroded sections of the trail along its entire alignment. Secondly, regrading and resurfacing the trail to make it an improved usable trail. It is ADA accessible now. Wheelchair riders do use it. We will continue to do that. We've informed the Coastal Commission that it is not staff's intention, obviously subject to Harbor Commission final approval of a project, not to pave the trail, but to keep it unpaved. We've done some research already. There are a number of non-paved treatments that are ADA compliant and would keep it without a bunch of macadam along the lane. That would be item number 2. Item number 3 would be to install a new restroom to replace the portable toilets. We would be applying to the Wildlife Conservation Board for grant funds to help defray costs there. And then fourthly, we will do improvements to the vehicle parking lot, which, as you know, is now an unpaved gravel area that we need to kind of grade every year. Again, we would not be paving that over with macadam, but rather, again, there are a number of different treatments that avoid, full pavement. So that would be the full project for which we would get a full permit. We will still need permits for that from the Coastal Commission, sign-off from the Corps of Engineers, sign-off from the Regional Water Quality Control Board, and sign-off from State Lands Commission, as with just about everything else we do. So we are in that process. The key right now, though, is Coastal Commission to try to get an emergency or expedited permit for immediate repairs. It is also staff's intention, which we made clear publicly previously, that we will continue to have periodic public update meetings on the project. We had one about erosion and dredging already on a Saturday. That looked like a good thing to do to maximize availability and access to the public. It's our intention to be doing that as we proceed with the project. I would anticipate that once we hear back from the Coastal Commission on our immediate priority request, that would be a good time to have another one of these meetings, which again, we would have it videoed and available. And so that project, for which this current fiscal year has approximately $365,000 already budgeted and committed, would continue. We anticipate that because of the nature of the full project, the project will carry over into next fiscal year. And so, responding to Commissioner Tucker's request for capital project, details for the balance of this fiscal year, and then going ahead, this would be one of the projects that will be clearly on that.
So I just want to make sure, thanks for that explanation, and it's great to hear that non-paving is part of the picture, and improving the parking lot, the restroom, all that stuff. Great project, really needs to happen. But for process, doesn't this project concept need to come before this board to review in advance of it going to the Coastal Commission?
Absolutely correct. In fact, for the purposes of the emergency approval from Coastal Commission, we felt that it was urgent enough to make contact with them as quickly as possible, particularly because when we first contacted them, we were anticipating more rains, and we really wanted to make sure that we didn't have to shut down the trail. What I have described to you in concept will absolutely be coming to the Harbor Commission. The thing is, right now, we do not have, anything fully written up yet. We needed to first, and this goes, actually, I'm glad you raised this, because it goes to process what the Coastal Commission and other regulatory agencies ask for, not just this harbor district, but everyone who's potentially looking for a permit is, please come to us right at the beginning, early on, so we can inform you of things you need to think about. And so we're getting that kind of feedback from them. Right now we don't have it, we're due to get it. Once we're there, then we have some real substance in terms of crafting, the details of, a formal permit application. And so at that point, we're anticipating clearly bringing this to you for review and action to proceed on the concept that I've just described.
So with the emergency permit, is there some kind of a project description that was provided to the Coastal Commission to try to get the emergency permit? Because I haven't seen that. Is that something that we can look at as a board?
Yeah, we can. It was our intention to, package that with their immediate response. We're looking for a quick turnaround. If you want what we've given them, we can certainly provide that.
That would be helpful, because we've been talking about this for about 6 months or so now, and I'm interested in reading what the emergency repairs are going to be. I have absolutely no idea right now what that would entail, so I don't expect you to go into it right now, but it'd be great to read what that emergency project description is, so that I have a clue about what is before them for...
Certainly, and again, to clarify, we don't know what it's going to be either. We provided them with information that includes a couple of different ways to go. They are considering that. One way will be more acceptable to them than another, I expect. And so that was another reason why we've held off. If you want to see this information, obviously we can give it to you, but we will cover that with an explanation so you understand that what you see is not necessarily what is going to end up being the final thing. It's basically the kinds of things that we have looked at through a condition survey of the whole site.
Well, just, with, for example, with the county planning department and say the Parks Department and the Board of Supervisors, the process that I'm used to is that the board is kept informed, even if it's an emergency permit, that the board is provided with some information about what is being requested so that everybody's on the same page. And that's the kind of process I'd like to see happen, even in an emergency permit situation, as well as a regular permitting situation, so that the board isn't on the board isn't the last to know about what the project plan is. I think the board should be the first to know about what the plans are potentially. And I also agree with you that involving the Coastal Commission early is very, very important, and I'm glad that the district is doing that. So I don't mean to make it sound like I don't think that's important. I think it's absolutely crucial that the Coastal Commission be involved early, but I'd like to know what they're involved with, is what I'm trying to say.
Got it.
So enough, probably enough.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We understand, and we will provide all of you with what we have provided to the Coastal Commission.
That'd be helpful.
With explanation.
Okay, I'll try to be quick here. So I noticed that public restroom for ferry riders and trail users is on your list, and that's great, and maybe we can get more of an ETA on that at another meeting.
Yeah, just very quickly, very recently, I contacted the city planning department about that, and they said they'd get back to us. That's all we know at this point.
Okay. And then I noticed other top priorities, Pillar Point U.S. Coast Guard presence, and it just saying that there's still interest in a presence at Pillar Point Harbor, but budget constraints and other priorities are precluding any immediate action. And I just wanted to mention, how fortunate we are to have the Harbor Patrol. The Harbor District has an amazing staff of Harbor Patrol, and they are providing emergency response, and without them at Pillar Point Harbor, we would be in really bad shape, because it's a long haul for the Coast Guard to get over to the coast side, and our Harbor Patrol is saving a lot of lives. So I just wanted to mention that. And then here we have the NOAA Half Moon Bay buoy repair. And I know that's been something Scott's been working really hard on, and he's not here tonight, but I also wanted to just give a shout out to Tom Matouche, who is a charter boat operator. He's been working really hard with elected representatives trying to move the process forward. I think there's probably a lot of foot dragging and, bureaucracy, which takes time, but I am very thankful that there are members of the public like Tom Matouche who are staying on top of it, and Scott Grindy, who's been very involved. We've got the Pillar Point Harbor water quality study. There's been some newspaper articles on that, which you guys probably saw in the Daily Journal today.
And I'm sorry, Commissioner, are there other questions? Or
yeah, I have a question about that. The water quality results, I know we've been doing additional water quality samples, and Scott has provided those to the board in the past. It looks like good news here, where it says results contain no contamination in our recent results. But I'm wondering if staff could provide the board with those results. I know it's happened before, but it'd be great to see them again. So just wanted to ask about that down the road. And then the last thing is, the last thing is on the sewer pipe under Johnson Pier. I wondered I think that was, we were getting really close to starting that, and just wondered if we'd actually started work on that yet.
We have.
Okay, great, thanks.
any other questions? None. Okay. Thank you. We are then moving on to. Director of Finance 60. I thought we were doing all three at the same time. That we packaged in that way. Director of Finance.
It's before you. I can try to answer any questions you have.
Any questions regarding that report? Okay, moving right along to HR manager.
One thing there. At I think it was our last meeting or a recent meeting, we decided that the board was going to get a Excel spreadsheet on the percent rent paid to the district, and we haven't received that, so just a reminder that we need that. That's all.
Thank you. HR manager.
You have my report, I'll take any questions. Is that, just since I'm trying to take notes for
Right, regarding director of finance. Percent rents.
I don't remember that in my little notes, so.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Brennan, can you please repeat
Clarify
that?
so I
Percent
can
rents.
make sure I
I can't remember when it came up, but we decided we wanted to look at the percent rent being paid and the fish buying fees. so we were gonna see a month by month of percent rent in the fish buying.
And where was that discussed?
I don't recall, I think it was at the last meeting.
Because I don't remember that.
Okay,
It wasn't on the
well-
agenda unless it was in closed session.
I don't.
Okay, let's move right along to, I'm sorry, HR manager.
Yeah, I'm gonna report, I'll
Any
take any
questions
questions.
for the HR manager? Okay, I'd like to take this time again just to welcome new employees. I know this is your first meeting, welcome again, and thank you for sticking it out. Okay, we are now at operations, and this is Harbor Master Grindy's report.
Again, I'll try to respond to questions in his absence.
Okay, Commissioners, any questions on the Harbor Master's report? Okay. Moving right along, we are now at committee reports. We don't have committee reports. We discussed that earlier today. This evening, we are now at 19B, commission statements. Harbor Commissioners may make public statements limited to 5 minutes. Statements. Commissioners.
I just wanted to thank thank Marietta Harris for putting together the recommendation on Wi-Fi. I know it's been a long haul, and I'm, really excited that it's been approved, and I can't wait to try it out. So thank you for all your effort.
For those of you who followed the meeting closely, if you can recall, at the last meeting I made two motions under the proper item of the agenda. One was to ask for and receive an update on the pending complaints that we have, and the second was pertaining to Avenue Alhambra property that we've been toying around with. Both items passed, 4-0 with one abstention and 5-0. However, during the past week, in preparing the agenda, I was informed by manager that the item pertaining to complaints that are pending would not be on because Liebert and Cassidy was of the opinion they had nothing to report, and our district counsel said that she would not be here, and there was nothing to put on, and they would not give him any legal reason to put that item on for fear that there might be a Brown Act violation. I was very disappointed to hear that, especially since this district has a responsibility to make sure that any alleged harassment or complaint is being followed upon, and we know that because we've been interviewed by professional attorneys hired by Liebert and Cassidy. Also, there are certain requirements. I know in fair housing, for example, if there was a housing complaint or an employment complaint, there's a whole myriad of questions to be answered by the respondent. If you had a complaint, if there was a complaint against us, for example. My problem is that one of the items, I don't remember any numbers, but calls for us to do everything possible to make sure that that harassment does not continue. And I know that it's not continuing, in my opinion, if it exists at all. However, my problem is I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what action we're taking to make sure if anything is going on, it's not happening any longer. And that bothers me because I think the four of us certainly, but the 5 of us sitting up here have a responsibility to not only let our attorneys and the outside attorneys delve into this, but we have to take action as well. And we just can't sit there on the lily pad and wait for the water to come. So that's the reason I wanted to go into that closed session, and I'm very disappointed that council made the decision that we were not eligible at that time to do that. And lastly, let me say that we appropriated, maybe even misappropriated, $30,000 tonight to legal fees. I have to tell you, in my opinion, we're woefully short on that amount. If you look at your claims tonight, you'll see that we paid Liebert and Cassidy $6,000, and I believe the complaints are the only things that they're mitigating or working on now. And that's pretty much, they're just controlling or administering to the 2 professional attorneys that are interviewed all of us or whatever. We paid another $4,000 to our counsel, and I don't know exactly what part was for the complaints. But my point is that we're digging a hole And if anything future comes in, we're gonna be talking $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. I mean, both these women that interviewed us are professional, and they demand quite a large hourly rate. And we just need to be more aware of what the hell is going on and what our responsibilities are, so we're not caught short on what's happening. And that sounds more like a speech than a comment, but I'm really concerned about what action this board is taking proactive to anything that may or may not exist as far as complaints go. And that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Carvalho?
I have two. One I will refer to as sitting next to the chair caper. This caper that occurred at our last meeting, which is our last meeting at the Comfort Inn in Half Moon Bay, went like this. The seat arrangements for the commissioners are as they exist this evening. Upon entering the room at the meeting in Comfort Inn, my seat was exchanged with another commissioner. And it's almost laughable to think that a seat that's been assigned is changed. So, not really thinking that I could read too much into it, but it was kind of interesting that it happened, and it didn't happen magically. It happened with an intention, which is a mystery. So I asked people that were involved with setting up the chair assignments, and this is the way that you're looking at us. This is the way the seat arrangement was established. So the only person that changed my seat is sitting on my right. So why did you change my seat?
This isn't a time for conversation. But if you'd like to talk to me, we can talk later.
I do not appreciate the abuse. I do not appreciate the fact that I was handled the way that my seat was exchanged for your seat, and it shows some behavior that is unbecoming of a public official. I've never have seen this happen or heard. I've told people about this, and I've never heard that this has happened. So congratulations on being the first. And my second item is knowing that we are going to be having our next meeting in Half Moon Bay in a different location. I would hope that enough notice has been given to the public relating to them that a change of venue has been cited so that they are adequately noticed for the new location.
Point of information, if I may, Mr. President, to the chair to respond, just so you know. We didn't want to create any kind of confusion in the minds of the public, and so we waited for this meeting. We will be putting out through a variety of mechanisms notice that the next meeting will be a change of venue and giving information about it. It will be on our website and elsewhere. Yes.
Okay. Good. Okay. Commissioner Brennan, and then I will close out the remarks.
I don't have anything. I already made mine.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, first of all, I just want to say thank you to staff for the informational reports. I know that they are growing. I mean, tonight we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 informational reports. Trying to remember, you know, gosh, I've been here now, what, almost 4 years as a commissioner, and the informational reports have really grown. And so I just want to thank staff. I know that it takes a lot of time and energy and research to put these reports together and to be prepared to answer commissioners' questions, especially technical and complex questions. So I want to thank you for taking the time to do all of that, in addition to the other things that you do on a daily basis. And these were really good reports. I mean, all of the things that we dealt with tonight. I'm looking forward to the the health benefits report, and I know that that's going to be a complex one too. And just want to say that, you know, we commissioners, I wanted to talk about the AB 1234 requirements on mandatory ethics training. There are also harassment trainings, anti-harassment trainings, and anti-sexual harassment trainings. And I know that I've taken such classes in my day job because we have to do that. And so I think that it's important for the public to know that these classes and these things are available for public officials who do take the classes. So, and finally, I just want to say thanks again to staff, just for your continued hard work, and to those who aren't here tonight too, Harbor Master Grindy, Deborah Galarza, you know, and the rest of the entire staff. Just wanted to thank you. So now we are going to go into, I believe, item 20, the identification of a district real property negotiator, which is one of the formalities we have to go through before we go into the closed session to talk about conference with real property negotiations. So I would like to designate district real property negotiator Peter Grinnell.
Mr. President, I would move to go into closed session.
Okay, I hear a motion to go into closed session. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
I hear a motion and a second to go into closed session. All in favor of going into closed session?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I'm sorry, I'm confused. Were we voting to appoint the real property negotiator, or are we gonna do that next?
We're designating Peter Grinnell as the real property
We need to vote
negotiator.
according to the rules. We need to vote.
I'm sorry, Ms. Savory, can you please clarify?
No,
Do we vote
no.
for a real property
The
negotiator?
Brown Act says we have to vote.
I'm sorry, Ms. Savory?
In my opinion, you do not, I've consistently given this advice, but you do need to vote whether to go into closed session or not.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I just need to say that I am not down with that, and I do not support designating the general manager as the real property negotiator for this. So, just want to say that.
Okay, and thank you for that. Ms. Savory, can you explain, I think this is more for the benefit of the public, in terms of designating a real property negotiator, does that really mean that we designate Mr. Grinnell as our real property negotiator, or can we at some other point change that?
You always have the option to change that.
Okay, thank you.
Choose to do so.
Okay, I heard a motion, thank you. I heard a motion and a second to go into closed session. All in favor? I'm sorry. Aye. All opposed? Abstentions?
Can we use the room next door, Mr.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries, and we are in closed session.
We now return control of your television set to you until next week at this same time, when the control voice will take you to the outer limits.